was 1994, just a little bit after South Africa became a democracy. I was taken in by a white family. I wasn't adopted, and I was not the daughter of a domestic worker or the gardener, as many people assumed I was. It started with me becoming really close friends with a little white girl on the playground of St. Teresa's Primary School in Craighall. And the visits to her home soon turned to less visits to my own home in Soweto, and all of a sudden I found myself living with this white family for several years. So back then I didn't know what the details of this arrangement was, I was just a kid. But what I did know was that I didn't really fit in. So this family I lived with, this white family I lived in Craighall Park in the northern south of Joburg, were very wealthy. I remember the huge swimming pool in the backyard. I remember the high walls with the electric fence. I remember the huge paintings on the walls, some of which made me blush because they were of naked people. I had never seen naked people on the walls before. And I remember the horse riding lessons, and I remember the holidays to the sea. So here I was, this little black girl, was taken by this white family. And all of a sudden in 1999, my mom was like, she wants her kid to come back home. So basically my mom came and she took me from that family, and she was like, actually, I want to come back to Imbawula, Soweto, where she was living with my two sisters. And I remember that day when she fetched me with my suitcase and how we took the taxi to town, how we walked to Van Brandy's just down the road, and we waited for the taxi to Imbawula, Soweto. And I felt a sense of resentment to my mom because I thought that she was taking me away from this life that I thought was better than the life that I looked down on. So here I am, a kid, 1999, I'm 9 years old, and all of a sudden I'm back at Gazi, when all this time I was raised in the northern suburbs of Joburg with the white family. And it was really hard to adjust. One of the things I found really hard to do was just to basically adjust to my mother tongue. I found it really hard to speak isiZulu and whatever everyone else was speaking, and this was really hard for me. I remember one situation when I went to Ispaza, and I wanted to buy amajubjub. You guys know amajubjub, those little sweets? Yeah. So when I got there, I'm like, I want amajuba. The person at the store who's selling to me is like, what? Amajuba, like pigeons? You want pigeons? And eventually we sort of like pointed to Umajubjub, and she was like, oh, and from then on she called me Umajuba, because that's what I wanted. I also remember how it was really, really hard to just be down with the kids in the neighborhood. I remember how I was always the last one to be picked when they were playing games. So whether it was Iskotch, Ibati, Umgusha, I was just like the last person. If I was not the last person, I was the old saver. Iod. How many of you guys remember Iod? How many of you guys were Iod? Hands up, yeah? I see you. And it sucked because when you were all saver, you were basically the loser. But I also remember that I think in my memory, and I believe actually in my memory, that was also some of the best times of my childhood. I remember growing up in Nawane and how we used to play in the streets until very, very late. Although your parents told you that when the street lights come on, you better be home. And you and your friends would be like, okay, just one more game of Mgugu, just one more. And one more would turn into like several games of Mgugu, and you'd be home at like 8 p.m. when Generation started playing. You'd be coming into the house like, oh shit, I'm gonna get it. But I also remember how on Mondays and Fridays, those were the days when we came back home on time. You see, Mondays was all about dynamite deep roof dudes. Yeah. And Fridays was all about EJM80. Yeah. And you didn't want to miss those shows. Yeah. So those were the only days when you came home on time. I also remember waking up very early in the mornings to catch Ikumbi, transport to school, and watching music videos on Bob TV while getting ready to go to school. That's actually where I fell in love with Imbawula. I remember Bob TV would always play her videos, like really, really early in the morning. And I also remember Esnawane, where I grew up, falling in love with Tamia. All my neighbors had Tamia on cassettes. Everybody was playing Tamia. I remember on Saturdays hearing Who Do You Tell? When you love someone, I looked up to were Faithing Stoop. And if it wasn't Tamia on the stereo, it was YFM 99.2. I also remember setting up Amazuga way to go get a red cake. Now before red velvet cake was a thing, red cake was the thing. And so these are just some of the memories I have about growing up in Soweto that just remind me of a very colorful and really cool childhood that I had. But I actually really don't want to romanticize things. I feel like having grown up for the first years of my life in a white space with a white family and then moving to Soweto really did stuff to me mentally. I couldn't understand why, although we had good times, I didn't understand why my friends and I did not have huge swimming pools, and I didn't understand why we couldn't have horseback rides. And so those stuff really got me thinking about, like, why is it because of my color of my skin that I have less than my friends in the suburbs where I grew up and had. I also grew up really, really angry and just filled with a lot of hurt. As I mentioned before, I was kind of angry at my mom. She took me away from this like really amazing life to a life that I didn't really think would be amazing. And then later, I was angry at my mom because I was just hurt. I mean, what kind of mom gives away their kid? Why did she take me to that white family in the first place? And then for a long time, I was angry with the white family. I thought that they took me in out of guilt. I mean, you know, just to be like the perfect post-Rainbow Nation, poster family with a black kid. And so I was really angry with them for a long time. And so I feel like just living through those spaces so intimately really messed me up. But I also feel like a lot of us black people are just not having conversations about what's going on up here. So I'm very grateful that my mom actually took me back at Gasi and I got to live there and experience it, because it was there that I really learned how to be black and proud. And also I'm very excited to be living in a space right now where I feel like there's so many people there's so many more spaces where we can actually be black and proud, like for black girls only, and so many other spaces, like we just unapologetically so. But I feel like we're not having conversations about what's happening up here. I feel like we are a traumatized community, we are a traumatized society. So just to backtrack a bit, a few years after I went back to Soweto, my mom, a beautiful woman, very proud and educated woman, something snapped into her and she literally lost her mind. Even up to today, she is just a shadow of the woman she used to be. And it was really hard growing up with a mom who was mentally unstable. And I didn't understand it when I was a kid. But when I think about it now, I think that if I were living through a time that was so brutal and so oppressive, like most of our parents, and just looking at the kind of stuff that a whole lot of us still go through today, I'm surprised that most of us have not lost our minds. Or maybe we have. We're just not having conversations about it. There are some days where I feel like I'm the dopest black girl slaying as fuck. Excuse my language. But then things like black tax get me down. NAFSAs get me down. NAFSAs now wants to come knock on your door and be like, you better pay, you know? Structural racism and all that shit just hits me like a blow in the head. And honestly, sometimes I just don't know how to deal. And so basically, what I'm trying to say is that, how are we dealing? You know, so important to be able to be like, I'm black, I'm beautiful, I don't give a fuck about what anyone else thinks, but like, what's going on in here? And so I wonder, because I don't have the answers, how are we healing? You know, how are we actually really healing? I was having a discussion with one of my friends who's here, and she was telling me about how her parents went into exile. You come back and you're just expected to just carry on with your life and shit. You know, I think we really need to have discussions about how we deal, and if you're dealing, what are you doing to deal? If not, how can we start that process of healing? I don't know the answer. I'm still trying to figure it out, and that's my story.